This is Larry Jordan, the host of the Digital Production Buzz. The following interview is an excerpt from a recent program. To hear the entire program, visit digitalproductionbuzz.com. Avery Lu is the co-founder and chief marketing officer at Palo Alto Scientific. This is a wearable tech company whose goal is to bring sports science to everyone. They do this by integrating sports science, data analytics, wearable technology, and the Internet of Things, including shoes. Hello, Avery. Welcome.
Hi, Larry. Good afternoon.
Avery, how would you describe Palo Alto Scientific?
So what our company's mission is to empower sports enthusiasts to participate in sports science, leveraging the whole wearables and the big data analytics. So what we do is our first product, Profile My Run, is actually designed to help runners improve their running form and technique using an app on our iOS device in a smart insole.
Now, this app actually connects with, if I remember from your website, an insole device, which has got a sensor built into it, which tells you everything you want to know about your feet. Is that true?
Correct. So basically, there's a force sensing sensor that's built into the insole, and that would replace your existing insole in your running shoe. That's actually one of our patent pending capabilities. And then we also using accelerometer as well as a Bluetooth LE to communicate with the iOS device to, in real time, advise runners to improve their posture, their cadence, their speed.
Now, what was it that woke you up in the middle of the night saying you have to co-found a company that does inserts to shoes?
So my founder and CEO, C.K. Lamb, actually several years ago, his doctor told him that he had to take up a sport to improve his health because he would otherwise have to take beta blockers for the rest of his life. And being an engineer and understanding data analytics long before we had this terms big data and data analytics and data science, he said, I can solve this problem and I can help others as well.
Your company has the phrase, bringing sports science to everyone. What does that mean?
So what that means is we're really basing on the sports science and leveraging the whole technology capabilities to really improve people's lives. So just like right now you have the Fitbits that are kind of the first generation wearables giving you descriptive information about your weight, your calories, your steps. But we want to take it one step further. What if we can predict what's going to happen and also prescribe to you what you can do to improve your health, improve your fitness, to augment your life? And that's really, I think, the goal where a lot of the wearables going forward are going to be focused on in order to get that stickiness or rate of adoption that right now is sorely missing in the wearable space.
Avery, one of the things that I'm most interested in is I get a really excited feeling about this new technology, this data that you're able to get just by having an insert in our shoe. But at the same time, we're collecting all this medical information, and it seems like everything and its cousin is getting hacked these days. How do we keep all this data secure?
Yeah, so I think, I'm not a data security expert, but I would say that, the important thing is how we segment the data in terms of how much information I really have to have for the user. What can I do with it to provide some value? At the same time, not having to take enough data to really, like they say, piece it together so that people can really understand my personal life to the level that they say would like to know. And I think that's really the challenge right now.
Well, you're aggregating the data to keep it anonymous, but do we need to worry about things like HIPAA rules? Because I know HIPAA makes medical information even more secure than standard business data.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think right now, most startups like ourselves, what we want to do is we are trying to avoid the HIPAA and FDA in terms of just getting enough data to provide and prescribe, but without actually diagnosing an illness, because that's where HIPAA and the FDA would have to come in, right? I think, but we have been approached by many different companies that are already working on wearables in the medical space that would like to also participate in the consumer side. So I think there's an opportunity to work together to try to create these safeguards going for people's medical data.
What information is stored locally on the cell phone, and what information is aggregated in the cloud?
Well, right now for our current app, I think most of the data is actually being pushed up into the cloud. We just use, the data coming back from the cloud in order to advise using some audible tone, so it doesn't interrupt a runner's session. If they're leaning too much forward or leaning too much backward. Now, as we improve our app and add additional functionalities to advise them, and also as we port to possibly a smartwatch as a standalone wearable that can last for ultra marathons, 100 miles, 300 miles, that's where a lot of the data will be stored locally on a flash memory. And then at the end of the session, or maybe at different spurts during the marathon, uploaded to the cloud.
Now, you mentioned this is anonymous. How can you analyze it if the data is anonymous? There's got to be some personalization for you to give feedback back to the runner. How are you making sure that the right data does not get lost?
Well, I think when we collect the data, of course, the user has to collect data. But I think it's really after we collect the data, right, how we safeguard it and then basically be able to give them and only them access to their data. And so that what happens after the session, they can actually go and look at the runner score and personal data on profilemyrun.com and only accessible through password.
With, let's see, talk to me about the technology. How are you getting the signal, the data from the shoe to the phone? How does that work?
Oh, okay. So from the shoe, the insole would replace your existing running insole, and what you do is there's actually a cable that collects data from the foot, the force sense, up to 700 pounds per square inch, and from that data is aggregated with the accelerometer data in a module that clasps onto your shoelace, and then from that will be communicated through your iPhone and then your iOS app. And then basically it will advise you about your lean, if you're leaning forward enough or leaning too far back and so on.
And how does your company make its money?
Well, initially it would be from selling the hardware units, the insoles. But really what we want to do is we want to revolutionize the wearable industry in terms of not only selling hardware. Hardware is just a platform to collect data. I think the future of wearables is really going to be about the data analytics, the prescriptive and predictive nature, what we can provide. And we want to create kind of like Steve Jobs took the creative MP3 and made it into, iTunes, right? And having artists sell their data or their music or their art on an ecosystem tied to iOS. What we want to do is we want to create a sports marketplace leveraging social media so runners can share their data amongst themselves, and we can even get celebrity runners to sell their profiles just like artists sell their music on iTunes. And therefore, if you wanted to run like Meb Kennedy, who won the Boston Marathon, then he can actually sell you the profile, and using machine learned apps and understanding your physiology, we can actually map your run to learn his form and technique to win marathons.
Well, is this a business model similar to Google's, where the money is in the advertising and you're marketing our data back to other people or to ourselves?
Yeah, so in some respects, it's like that. But I think what we want to do is, people will opt in because they see value in, how it's going to augment their lives, right? So if they see that the data we're returning back to them is something worth spending, then they're willing to pay the monthly subscriptions, $5.99, $7.99, $9.99, if it improves your life. I mean, right now you have Map My Run, and you also have the Fitbits, and they will charge subscriptions. But what happens is that data still is not as useful as where it should be, and we're striving as a company, just like the industry, to provide valuable data so that you're willing to spend the money because you're getting your big bang out of your dollar. I think, with us paying cell phone bills and DirecTV and other bills, why should I justify paying yet another expense, right?
Where can people go on the web to learn more about the products your company makes and your company itself?
They can go to profilemyrun.com, or they can also check us out on Facebook. So you just do facebook.com/profilemyrun. And what we do is we actually blog and post different aspects about running science and sports science.